My name is Polly Griffiths and I'm Business Sustainability Manager at Sustainability Trust. So welcome to the first of our waste minimisation Q&A webinar sessions. This is very exciting. Today we're going to be talking litterless lunches and food waste. But this isn't the first of these sessions that we've done. We've already had 6 webinars over the last couple of weeks. We've had 4 on food growing and 2 on home energy. So if you haven't managed to catch up with those yet, please head to our Facebook page and to our website where you can see recordings of these sessions and also lots of cool blogs giving you links to other resources. So before we get stuck into introducing the panelists and the Q&A session, I'm going to hand over to one of our fabulous panelists, to Kawa Robb from Paracore, and he's going to give us an opening karakia. So just over to you.
Tēnā tātou e te whānau. Tuatahi te mihi nei ki a Ranginui, ki Papatuanuku, ki a Rāua Uri. E tū ora mai nei, I Wānganui a tātou. Ngā mihi hoki ki ngā mate ko wehe atu ki te pō, haere atu rā. Rātou ki rātou tātou ki a tātou, hoki mai no, ki a tātou katoa, te hunga ora. Ko whakapiri mai nei, a kanohi, ki tātou, ki a koutou katoa, e are mai a tāringa, ki tēnei pai kōrero, nau mai hara mai, tēnā tātou katoa. He rā paki, he rā tāhua, he rā mokopuna ki konei, I te upoko tika. Tino kaha ngā hihi o tamanui te rā, no reira, ko tēnei te karaki o tēnei kaupapa. Whiti ora ki te whai au, ki te ao marama, whiti ki runga, whiti ki raro, whiti ki roto, whiti ki waho. Ka ngungu ki te kōhatu, ka ngungu ki te rākau. Tītaha ki tēnei taha, tītaha ki tēnā taha. Turuturu au, whiti whakamaua kia tīna. Haumi e hui e tāe ki e. Kia ora, whakahoki te rākau ki a koe Polly.
Kia ora. So you'll have noticed that you're all on mute, and that's not by accident, but we do want to hear from you. So how it's going to work today is that you submit all your questions to us through the Q&A button. And depending on your device, whether it's your phone or your computer or any other device, it might be at the top or the bottom of your screen. So somewhere that will be there, and just type in your question and I'll be able to see that and put them to the panel. So today is our topic is all of the waste associated with the food that we eat. And over this period, we might have become a bit more aware of how much food that we're wasting and the waste associated with our food as we've been spending more time at home and maybe creating a bit more food from scratch. And it's estimated that every New Zealander on average wastes $250 per year on food that never gets eaten. And along with the food waste, there's all the resources that went into kind of creating that food in the first place. And when that food gets disposed of, especially in landfill, we've got the creation of the greenhouse gases associated with that. So now's a really good time for us to all think about the small steps that we can be taking to make changes to the amount of food that we waste. And we're lucky enough to have some really fantastic guests with us today to help with our advice as we go on this journey. And they're going to introduce themselves to you now. We've got Kawa Robb from Paracore. We have Kim, our educator from Your Sustainable Schools, who works at the Trust. Jenny from Love Food, Hate Waste, and Amanda from Enviro Schools. Welcome to all of you. Thank you all for giving up your time today. So before we crack on, I'm going to get each of you to introduce yourselves, and I will start with Amanda.
Tēnā koutou. Ko Amanda Dobson ahau. Ka noho au ki Titahi Bay, ki Porirua. I am in the Enviro Schools Tupoko Te Ika a Māui team and largely work in the Porirua and Kapiti Coasts parts of our region, supporting early childhood schools, primary and secondary, with all things sustainability, which of course includes zero waste strategies, waste being one of the key areas that we have resources for. I have the great privilege of collaborating with many other environmental educators, including Kim, Sustainability Trust, and Kawa, Parakore, mihi nui kia korua. And also, thanks very much for the invitation for us to participate in this conversation. It's a great opportunity. So yeah, looking forward to contributing and no doubt learning some as well. So koutou.
Thanks, Amanda. I'm going to move around my screen so it's Te Kawa next.
Tēnā tātou katoa. Ko Te Kawa tangata Robb tōku ingoa. Huri tēnei no te moana nui a toi. Engari noho tonu te pake hau ki konei ki te whanganui atara. So my name is Te Kawa. My whakapapa goes back to the Bay of Plenty, but I was born, grew up here, and sustained and nourished by all the wonderful goodness that's here in Tupoko o Tika. So I work for an organisation called Parakore. We're a kaupapa Māori organisation focused on supporting marae, kura, kohanga, and a number of organisations with waste minimisation kind of as a starting point, but really looking to support those organisations to increase their resilience and self-sustainability. So as Amanda indicated, we also work in collaboration with a number of other organisations. So great to be sitting alongside you, Amanda, and Kim. Great to meet you, Jenny. Love your mahi, what you do with Love Food, Hate Waste. Thrilled to be here and looking forward to contributing and sharing kōrero. Kia ora.
Cool. So we'll go on to Jenny next. We've had a bit of an intro there to you, Jenny.
Kia ora, thanks so much for having me along today. I'm dialing in from sunny Auckland, which is nice to be here. So I look after Love Food, Hate Waste New Zealand, which is a campaign to kind of inspire everyone to waste less food and give you strategies for how to do that. And I also coordinate the National Plastic Free July Aotearoa campaign. So equally passionate about, how can we reduce our packaging consumption without wasting more food at the same time. So yeah, both topics close to my heart. Thank you.
Great. And last but definitely not least, we've got Kim from the Trust, our fabulous educator.
Kia ora, thanks for having me. I am from Sustainability Trust. I've been working with schools mostly since I started there. It's really cool to work with the schools. The Your Sustainable School program that we're running at the moment has been funded by the Ministry for the Environment. Amanda and I have been working closely on that together. And Te Kawa has also had some input in the beginning stages of that program. It's been a cool collaboration. The idea around the program is that we can support our Wellington schools, Wellington region schools, to reduce the amount of waste that they're sending to landfill. It's as simple as that. It looks very different from school to school, but it's been a really fun time. We're still going, and hopefully at the end of term 2, we'll be wrapped up, have 45 schools through this program, and a bunch more people really keen to reduce the amount of waste that they are sending to landfill. Thank you, Polly.
Cool. Thanks, everyone. And thanks again for giving up your time. So I'm going to kick off the Q&A session just by asking whether Litterless lunches need to be more expensive. And I know it might seem quite obvious to all you guys who are in the thick of it, but maybe we could talk a bit about what Litterless lunches actually mean as well. So Kim, would you mind starting us off on that one?
Happy to. Well, Litterless lunches, what they mean really is a lunch that goes to school that creates as less waste as possible. Yeah, and a Litterless lunch can look very different from person or household to household as well. Yes, I think that in my opinion, the easiest way to achieve a Litterless lunch to begin with is to use leftovers from the night before, bring them along to school in reusable containers or work in reusable containers. So what we're trying to avoid with a Litterless lunch is unwrapping food and placing those wrappers in the rubbish or even in the recycling if there's recycling available. The less amount of waste we produce is the best thing for ourselves and the environment. Anyone else got anything to add to that? No?
Okay, all right.
I'll chip in if you like. On Litterless lunches, yeah, I really want to just talk about what you said, Kim, about Litterless lunches looking different from person to person and household to household. One thing that we find as an organisation, you probably see it on my hoodie, you know, it's working towards zero waste. So the Litterless lunch is the goal, and supporting whānau and parents to and caregivers to take the time to explore what goes into the lunchbox helps us provide an opportunity to sort of consider, oh, what can we do about this and that, and it steps, even if it's just one step to start with, and you do that for a month, awesome. Let's embed those sort of practices and normalizations.
Great.
I'll add to that as well. I think you also had in the question there about whether Litterless lunchboxes are more expensive. Yeah, so I think there's plenty of evidence that's not the case. Yeah, so I've got an example of a pamphlet developed by KCDC that's been is available to the community on their website and has been distributed into schools to share some fundamental guidelines and information, and it includes in here a cost comparison of packaged lunches and non, and so there's a really good example and evidence there that it isn't going to cost you more, it will actually cost you less. And I'll just share one other concrete example of something you can include in a Litterless lunch is a reusable lunch wrap, and we often are supporting our schools to make these. And again, these are really low cost, so you can make a sandwich sized one for about $1.50. So, and then it's got plenty of use. So there's a couple of examples.
Great, that's a beautiful material you've got there for your beeswax wrap, Amanda. Very lovely.
That's one of our. That's from one of our early childhood Enviro schools. So again, this is happening. Our young children can be making these in families really easily, as much as in the schools. There's plenty of examples and guidelines on if you Google on websites. Yeah,
we're the same actually. Kim might want to say a bit about your beeswax wrap activity.
Yeah, we make the beeswax wraps in schools also with children to support them, I guess, in their first stages of Litterless lunch. It's a really cool. What I've found it makes for a very cool conversation piece. The kids take it home, and it opens up a whole bunch of conversation with whānau, family, caregivers about what this is and what you do with it and the reasons why it is a good idea. But we also offer them for adults as well, beeswax wrap workshops through the Trust. One of our other educators, Caroline, runs those. And we find that the level of engagement from adults with beeswax wraps is phenomenal. That everyone wants to make one.
Cool. All right. Well, I've got one which I think I'm going to put to Jenny first as the next question. We've got an anonymous question asking, what's the best way to put meat in a freezer? Because they use Tupperware and it gets freezer burn. So have you got any top tips for that?
Yeah, and I think this is always when there's a trade-off between how do I minimize the amount of plastic packaging I'm doing and how do I make sure that my food lasts as long as possible. And putting meat in Tupperware or in glass is never going to freeze as well as if you put in plastic. But what I would encourage you to do is to think about making sure that you've got good quality reusable plastic that you can use. So in our household, for example, we have those little plastic Ziploc bags. You can put the meat in it. It works really, really well. But we're constantly washing those, drying those, and using them over and over again. So we can kind of get maybe 10 or 20 uses out of it. The other thing you can do, it's a little bit more expensive, but you can invest in what they call silicone Ziploc bags, which is a much sturdier material. They are a little bit more expensive, but we also freeze our meat in that as well. So, but the simplest solution, I suppose, is if you are buying meat from the supermarket, if you can buy it in the right portion size for your family, the best way to freeze it is in the material that you've kind of got it from the supermarket in. Another thing that we do, every now and again, there's something that we really need to buy that often comes in plastic. So for example, sweet corn. If it's the middle of the winter and you want sweet corn, you're going to have to buy frozen sweet corn. So we save all of those frozen sweet corn bags when we finish with them, and then we can use them to wrap it in something else. So what I'd encourage you to do is any kind of plastic that does come into your life, keep it and use it to replace the plastic that you might be intentionally buying. And then that way you're giving that plastic that you've already got kind of a second or third life.
That's great, Jenny. Top tips there. Anyone else want to add their top tips on freezer storage? Cool. Okay, I'm going to go on to the next one. Caroline's asking she says that she doesn't have time to cook all the snacks that her kids are used to eating. Any ideas to super quick and easy snacks other than fruit for the kids? And I'm going to pass that to Amanda. Sorry for that.
Okay, probably I would suggest identifying some things in the bulk bins at the supermarket that you can select from, and that are easily eaten just as is. So, and I also would think there's an opportunity there that the children can be involved to make, so that they can be helping to do the scooping and selecting from the bins, and then potentially having them in jars or containers at home, so that they can be scooping their servings into their lunch boxes or into their little containers in their lunch boxes. So there's a wide variety. There's probably more and more available in terms of dried fruits and simple snacks. So yeah, that would probably be what I would suggest.
Oh, Kim, did you have something else you wanted to say there?
I was going to ask, for clarification around the question. Was the person asking for things that they could be making at home with their kids? I
think yes, as long as it was quick things.
Yeah. Well, my most favourite is the making crackers out of just seeds and water. Super easy. You can find every kind of recipe under the sun on the internet, but healthy, easy, and it gets rid of those silly little snacks packets that cannot be recycled, that end up in lots of schools as well. That would be my top thing.
Cool.
Yeah. Something else that's really quick and simple as well, nuts like peanuts, popcorn. You don't need to, if you've bought loose popcorn, you can just pop up a little bit of corn and put it in their lunch boxes. So you can have sort of fun, healthy snacks without being fruit. So just kind of think about some of those other savoury options that like a handful of peanuts, or maybe peanuts and sultanas together. They can make for a really fun snack as well.
Nice.
Yeah, speaking of involving kids, well, we've got a 7-month-old. I'm drawing on my memories of being a kid, which was many years ago. We used to really enjoy making muesli bars. Similar kind of thing, using stuff from the bulk bins, using what you've got around home that's kind of, a little bit of leftover this, a little bit of leftover that, and just putting it all in a tray, heating it up, making it, using honey or whatever binding agent you're doing and then just chopping up, and then you've got your bits, you've got your muesli bars for the week.
Yeah, and just to support that, in this pamphlet, there's a homemade muesli bar recipe that's included, really low budget, and also making a batch of muffins with your leftover food scraps that came possibly out of lunch boxes the prior week, making a batch on the weekend, freezing and pulling them out each day. It's also another good way to go.
Great. I'm going to start Kim off on this one because I know that she did some work on the kids on this. A workshop. What's the best thing to do with broccoli stems?
That's hilarious. Well, I can't say it's the best thing, but there's a very tasty thing to do, is to turn it into broccoli stem pesto. Really easy, very low budget, and delicious. Yeah. So that's what I would recommend. Broccoli stem pesto. So
nice.
that's just, yeah. Pardon me?
What else goes into that?
Oh, yep. So a little bit of garlic, oil. You need a food processor to chop it up. You can put in some nuts if you like nuts, gives it a nice nutty flavour. Otherwise, if you can't eat nuts, you don't have to use them. It's really whatever you want to put in them, put in it. Yeah, olive oil, canola oil, anything you've got lying around at home, you can make your pesto out of. And then you could dip in those cool crackers I referred to earlier.
Nice.
Very good. Mm.
Oh.
Even just finely peeling your broccoli stalks, and then the inside part of the stalk tastes a little bit like kind of cucumber. So, and I don't know if anyone's been watching Nadia Lim's, Carry On Cooking. Her kids were like, oh, can I have the broccoli stalk? Can I have the broccoli stalk? So that was kind of their favourite part of the broccoli. So particularly if you've got young children in that 2 to 5 year old range, and you're wanting to get them into eating more vegetables, actually the stalk is a good part of the broccoli to begin with, because it's a little bit blander, a little bit more neutral in its flavour, and it seems to have a more appealing texture. And this is where I do a shameless promotion for the Love Food Hate Waste website, where we've got 1,000,001 recipes on what to do with your broccoli stalks. So if you do actually kind of want to cook with them, if you pop on there, we've got a pesto recipe which Kim mentioned. But also things like broccoli fritters, lots of simple things you can do with those stalks.
Yeah, Love Food Hate Waste is an awesome resource if you're kind of lacking inspiration of what to do with your leftovers. Right. Oh, I'm not sure. So I've got looking for recommendations for bulk shops, ones which might be a bit cheaper. So I'll start with Amanda, and maybe anyone can chip in ideas, but we're not favouring one bulk store over another. Just any ideas you've got would be great.
We actually don't have a huge range in Porirua, other than the standard supermarkets, but I find bin in is a good option when I'm up in Kapiti. Yeah, so yeah, I'll hand it to others for other suggestions.
Yeah, we utilise Binin's resources. So my work, I find myself up in as far up as Otaki down here. So if I am in the hood, then I'll shoot into Binin. There's also, and I need to check out when they're open or how they're opening, but Hopper Street Eco as well, which is nearby in the city. They've got some bulk bins too.
Jenny, what about up in your neck of the woods?
Oh, I think we're a bit spoilt for choice in Auckland in terms of what we've got access to. We've got lots of zero waste grocery stores that have opened up as well. I think bin end is still great, at that budget end as well. The other thing to think about too is if you're kind of combining with other families, sometimes you can go to a wholesalers like Gilmore's, where you may be able to buy something in a really large quantity and then kind of redistribute it out. So I think if there's kind of a group of you who are doing it together, like I know for myself, things that I use a lot, like I'm like Kim, I make my homemade crackers, so I use a lot of sesame seeds. You can buy those in really, really big bags as well. So that's another option to kind of minimize your waste. If you can't kind of get it packaging free, try and buy it in a really big size. And so going to some of those wholesalers. And the other thing is too, a lot of our zero waste grocers are now online. So even if you're kind of in level 4 lockdown or level 3 lockdown, you can kind of go and order online, and they will send it out to you in paper packaging and in boxes. So that's another option regardless of where you are in the country.
Cool.
Just to add to that, I've just thought in the Porirua area and the hut in Wellington City, there's more Wilson's is good for bulk buying as well.
Great, and we've got a sort of follow-on question to that, is whether we know as a panel whether the bulk shops are allowing us to take our own containers in at the moment.
Yes, I can answer that one. So we've just had advice from MPI and the Ministry of Health that shops who want to serve food in bulk bins are allowed to do so, but it's at the discretion of each store. So each store has to decide for itself whether they feel that they can manage the health and safety risks. But they are now permitted to do so. But this advice was only received 2 days ago. So it may mean that it will take a few stores a bit of time to gear up for this, because up until now they all thought that they couldn't. But thanks to the work of a lot of people around the country who are kind of really pushing for this, people can take their reusable containers in, provided the store feels confident that they've managed the health and safety. So it will vary from one store to another, but our supermarkets are now looking to see how they can make that, gear that back up around the country at the moment. But they only found out 2 days ago, so maybe give them a little bit of a lead time to work out how they can actually do that safely.
I have
Oh,
seen Common Sense Organics has already been, has had their bins, bulk bins still serviceable.
Great. And I know that I think Hopper Home are taking them, and Good For as well in Wellington. So yeah, we've got some choice there. So one for Amanda and Kim, definitely. Maybe starting off with you, Kim. My beeswax wrap is looking a bit sad. Is there anything I can do to revive it?
There are some things you can do to revive your beeswax wrap. It does depend on if you've made it at home with just beeswax, or if it's a shop bought beeswax wrap as well. I think the first thing you want to try and do is maybe pop it in the microwave for 30 seconds and see if that stops it from being so, or looking so worn out. Once it's gone in there, you can lay it out on a tea towel on your bench and another tea towel over top and smooth it out. That's usually the biggest culprit. It starts to crack. The beeswax starts to crack. You could add more beeswax to it if you've got beeswax sauce. That's the beautiful thing about homemade beeswax wraps. If you're not including all of the resins and things into it and you're just using pure beeswax, you can make sure it's clean and keep adding beeswax to it. You can stretch a homemade wet beeswax wrap out for a very, very long time. Amanda, have you got some things to add to that one as well?
Not really. I mean, I did think that there was a potential to be able to actually hot wash it if you really wanted to give it a good clean and actually re-wax it after that. Potentially, but I probably haven't got to that point with mine. I just keep using them, even if they're looking a bit rugged. I do think, just to take, while we're back on beeswax wraps, just another couple of points is, that they're also versatile as being covering containers in the fridge as well as for the lunch wraps. So just in case people weren't aware of that, them being used in that use as well. And also great for gifts for whānau. And also fantastic fundraising for schools and communities. So we did a Plastic Free July promotion and supported by Parakuri at our Ubamirai Ngā Oiwa Papararangi. So and really lots of enthusiasm. So good ideas.
Awesome.
A couple of other things you could do, and it's off the back of what Amanda said, is if it is a big beeswax wrap, you can cut it down into smaller beeswax wraps and use it for jars in the fridge, or smaller bowls, or wrapping smaller things as well. So you can get rid of the really worn out bits. And with those worn out bits, it's really fantastic because they're made of cotton and natural beeswax. You can just chop that up and put it in your compost bin at home rather than sending it off to landfill. That's how you get rid of that.
All right, the next question is, this is kind of bringing the family into it. So I'd like to reduce waste, but it's really hard to get the rest of the whānau interested and on board, and they like chips. So just kind of looking for tips to how to get the family as interested as this enthusiast on reducing food waste. So Kawa, have you got anything you'd like to say on that?
Yeah, sure, I can contribute. I think for us in our journey of minimising waste, my partner and I, in this specific bubble, we've just been trying new things. And while we're fairly on the same page, one will go away and try a few tips and then come and say, oh, hey, look, I've just tried this thing. You want to give this a go? So for us, it becomes this opportunity to kind of research and look online and read blogs and kind of go away and practice a few things and come back and sort of show each other. What other families have been doing that I work with, they've very much tried to involve young people in the sort of the games that can come out of minimizing food waste. I think coming back, I guess one of the key fundamentals is actually knowing what you're trying to reduce. So part of what we do is support whānau and marae to do sort of to do waste audits and actually have a look. So you, as a family, as a whānau, as a collective unit, can decide, oh, well, let's focus on the chip packets, or if it's going to be, let's focus on something else. The starting point for us has always been about discussion and wānanga and getting an understanding of what are we trying to achieve here as a whānau, setting sort of a whānau plan, looking at what the situation actually is, and then going, okay, cool, let's just focus on this for now and work towards that. So yeah, that may not necessarily answer the question in whole, but I think inviting people to be participating and being involved in this is really important. And there are many, many different ways to do that, and seen a few, but for us it's just about us just going away and reading blogs and reading information that's out there and contributing that around the dinner table.
Great.
Maybe I can also just share a little bit. I think it's also about going, you know, some battles aren't worth fighting. So if your kids really love chips, you know, that's great, but maybe make that the treat. And it's like, hey, this is a special treat, we're going to have chips. And then the rest of the time they can have popcorn, they can have peanuts, they can have pretzels, all those kind of things that you get in the bulk bins. But you don't have to win every battle. So it's probably kind of thinking for your family, what's the most waste that we create, or what's the most food that we waste, and trying to tackle that, rather than kind of aiming for perfection. You know, you might find that the main thing that your children waste is, you know, half-eaten apples or something like that. So therefore, that's the battle that you want to try, or that's the behaviour you want to try and change. And yeah, if we have chips on a Friday night or on a Saturday night, let that go. But don't necessarily try and get perfect, but really think about, well, where are the greatest problems? You know, and, you know, chip packets, they're quite good. You know, if you are trying to reduce your waste, you can often use them as like a little mini rubbish bin, so you can kind of get another life out of them. So maybe put your time and energy into the things that really are creating a lot of waste. So, and that's worked in our household quite well.
I'll just add to that. I've got a daughter that's really very partial to chips, and so we've made a pact that we only buy the ones in the compostable bags. It's limited in terms of flavour choices, but at least we know that we can manage that. It's still not ideal, but again, you know, the kids could be doing the ripping up and the cutting the compostable bag back into the compost, so that again, it's just helping them to be involved and be thinking about why it's important to be considering our options.
Excellent. Yeah, I know chips is one that I've found difficult to give away. So I've got a very specific one from Emily here. Jenny, perhaps you could jump in first, and then if anyone else has got ideas. Any tips on how to stop fruit from going brown in lunch boxes? Her son likes his apples cut up, but since she stopped wrapping them in Glad Wrap, they go brown. Yeah,
and look, that's a tricky one. So one of the recommended things to do is to kind of squeeze them with lemon juice. That's going to kind of preserve the crunchiness, but they are inevitably going to go a little bit brown because it's oxidization, and there's not a huge amount you can do about it. Things to think about though is not so much now that we're moving into winter, but particularly in summer when it's warm, is thinking about putting like a little a frozen little ice block, what are they called, chiller pack, in the lunchbox, because that will keep everything cold, because keeping things cold will also kind of help to keep it crunchier for longer. But I did kind of want to talk about apples because it's a pet peeve of mine. And I just bought some apples here. I think really carefully think about the size of apples that you buy. So if you can all see here, there's this size apple and there's this little size apple here. So I think one thing as parents to do is to really try and buy as smaller apple as possible, because even I as an adult struggle to get through this kind of really large size, you know, apple that you go through. The other thing to also think about is whether you could do the apple more like into like a half or a quarter, and then that way you've got more sides that you can cover in your beeswax wrap, or that you can kind of keep covered. But yeah, inevitably they are going to go a little bit brown. So keep it cold, try some lemon juice, and maybe just not cut them into too smaller pieces, because then that way you've got more sides that you can kind of wrap around.
Great. All right, I've got a quick question that I'm going to give to Kim, and then a generic one for everyone to give their thoughts on before we have to finish off. Time has flown by. So Kim, can you tell us whether old-fashioned greaseproof paper is recyclable?
It's not recyclable, unfortunately. It's got a coating on it that makes it not paper and not anything else that can be recycled. So here in Wellington, we definitely do not recycle it. I've got some fun things that you could do with it though. We do this with when we make beeswax wraps, we have to use greaseproof paper, so that when you're ironing the wax is not getting stuck to the iron. So when we're finished with reusing and reusing and reusing those pieces of paper as much as we can, we will turn them into little fire starters. You might not have a fireplace at home, but perhaps someone else you do know does, and you can pass them on to them. It's a good season to be doing that kind of thing right here, right now.
Cool. And a good one for us to finish up on is just everyone to give their top tips for not throwing away kai. I'm obviously going to come back to you for your other top tip, but if there's anything else you'd like to add.
Not throwing away any kind of kai?
Yeah, any kind of kai. Yeah.
That's pretty generic. I like making stocks for soups and things, if that's what you're talking about, out of food scraps that you're not going to eat. Yeah.
Yeah, that's great actually, because that ties into another question. Someone wanted to know how to avoid more veggie scraps going in the compost bin.
Anybody else got anything to add to that? What?
Yeah, coming up to winter, that's soups are definitely a thing that are a flavour at the moment. With our young 7-month-old, there's inevitably a little bit of we've got, as a proportionately higher amount of food waste going into our compost at the moment, just because we can't quite always catch it before it goes on the floor. But definitely anything that we haven't done enough planning for, or that's looking like it's needs to be used in another way that was originally going to be used for in the meal, is definitely making it into stocks. Making it into soups through stocks.
I'd also suggest that quite a lot can be hidden or disguised in smoothies. So that's another strategy for reusing stuff, that might get wasted otherwise.
And a tip that we do in our household, we have like a miscellaneous plastic container from like ice cream, and any kind of bits and pieces that could lend themselves to some kind of pizza, we just chuck in that ice cream container, and then we kind of have a pizza night. So, if you kind of think there's almost any kind of leftover, if it's a bit of leftover mince or chicken or some vegetables or whatever, put it on a pizza and it's now no longer a leftover, it's now like, yay, takeaways. So it's trying to, you can always resell things to your children if you just bundle them up differently. So yeah, just putting them all together, and then you're like, oh, we've got a whole lot of stuff in here, let's now have a pizza night. So that's another good idea.
I love that idea. Well, thank you everyone for all your advice. I think, I've certainly learned some more tips. I love the way that this is an area you can always pick up new things. So yeah, thank you all. I think at this time, it's really important for Aotearoa to think about food resilience, and we can all do our bit to kind of contribute towards that. So yeah, thank you for your help today. So I'm just going to hand back to you again, just to give your final top tip to leave us thinking for the rest of the day. And could we start with Amanda?
Kia ora. Okay, I just wanted to share a couple of favourite mantras. One of them is from the Plastic Free July website, which is full of excellent resources around, particularly around single-use plastic alternatives. So thinking about choosing to refuse single-use plastic, but also applying that to choosing to refuse to create waste. And one other quote that I really found powerful for myself in terms of being conscious consumers is to remember every time you purchase something, you're casting a vote for the kind of world you want to live in.
Thanks, Amanda. Te Kawa.
Kia ora, I love that quote, Amanda. That's awesome. I think one of the things that this particular environment of needing to stay at home and minimizing our trips outside has really reinforced for us is the importance of meal planning. prior to level 4 and level 3, we were doing some pretty good planning, but this has meant that we've actually really had to refine that. And we found as a result, that's really minimized the amount of potential waste that goes into our bokashi bin. So looking at the days of the week that's coming up, getting an idea, are you going to make, a huge amount of that meal? So you've got X amount of leftovers. For us in our small bubble, there's myself, my partner, and our 7-month-old, it's relatively easy. But we've definitely found that despite having a bit more food going on the ground from our baby while she's exploring food and exploring solids at the moment, our overall amount going into the bokashi bin has decreased as a result of being much better organized with our meal planning. So that would be my top tip. Awesome.
Jenny?
I'm going to take the liberty of giving 2 top tips because I just kind of wanted to follow on with what Rob said about meal planning. We always talk about writing a shopping list, but how many people like me write a shopping list and I forget to take it with me? So my top tip is take a photo of your shopping list once you finish writing it, so that if you do forget it, it's still with you. Or if you don't have time to write a shopping list, just open your fridge and take a photo of your fridge on your phone. And then when you're in the supermarket and you're thinking, now what do I have left in, what do I have that needs in the fridge? Or do I already have one of those? You've got it on your phone, because we never forget our phones. My second top tip is for anyone who has school-age children and you're trying to do a Litterless lunchbox for them. There's always food that will come home uneaten. So encourage your kids to bring home any food that they haven't eaten, because for a start, if you're sending them off every day with something that they just end up throwing away, but you never knew because they kind of threw it away at school. So it'll give you an idea of, what quantity you should be feeding them and if there's anything they particularly don't like. And have a plan for those lunch boxes that come back half eaten. Your plan could be saying, hey, afternoon tea, eat up what's in your lunchbox. That's a really easy one. But if you've got leftover veggies, you could put that in and use it for the soup or the stocks that we've talked about earlier. If you've got leftover fruit, the smoothies that we talked about earlier, or making ice blocks out of the fruit. So have a plan for those unwanted foods that come home in the lunchbox, because kind of throwing it out should really be your last resort.
Thanks, Jenny. And Kim?
Just really quickly, if there's any teachers or principals or schools listening in, a top tip for you guys would be, if you don't already do Litterless lunches, perhaps introduce a challenge 1 day a week where you encourage people to come with lunches that are Litterless. Trash-free Tuesday, waste-free Wednesday, they have proven to be really fun and successful for lots of schools. And for parents, family, caregivers, you don't have to do it all at once. Just try one little waste-free something at a time in a lunchbox. Build your way into a complete Litterless lunch. That would be my top tips right there.
Awesome. Thanks, everyone. And thanks again just for giving up your time to share all your expertise with us and your top tips with us today. We have another session coming up on Friday on conscious consumerism, which is at the same time, and we've got some more amazing guests for that session. So please join us again then. And just a reminder that we have been recording this, so we'll be posting it up later on with links to lots of other awesome resources. So just a second, I'm going to pass back to Kawa for a closing karakia, and then if I could ask those of you who are attending as participants to kind of come off the line, but panelists, if you could please stay with us, and we'll just have a bit of a quick follow-up afterwards. Thanks, everyone. Ka kite.
Tēnā tātou. Tēnā tātou katoa I aku rangatira. Ko tukuna mai nei o koutou whakaaro o tau mātauranga, koutou pukinga, ki roto I tēnei raurau. Hei ora ai tō tātou tinana, hei ora ai tō tātou wairua, hinengaro, hei ora ai tō tātou whānau, te ao katoa. Kia ha te kōrero o te rangatira, a ko te kai, kia ha te kai o te rangatira, a ko te kōrero. So nā inei kōrero ka whāngai tātou katoa, kia pua wai, kia hoki ki o tātou kāinga, ki o tātou miru, kia mahi a te mahi. Nō reira, tēnei te mihi kia tātou katoa. Unuhia ki te uru tapu nui, kia wātea, kia māma, te ngākau, te tinana, te wairua, te arataka tā, hoi ara e rongo, whakairia ake ki runga, kia tīna, tina, hui e, tae ki e. Tēnā tātou katoa.